Hello, Sisters Unbothered. Welcome to the Sisters Unbothered podcast, where we drop the masks, speak our truth, and show up fully as we are. The expectation that we have here is to create a space where we can exhale, be real, and remember that we don't have to shrink to make others comfortable. I'm Coach Nikki, and I first want to say thank you so much for listening. If this is your first time, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to earn your trust. And if you are coming back for more, thank you so much for your support. Here's what we're about. No performative anything. We are tired of wearing facades. We are tired of putting on airs. We will no longer apologize for taking up space. No dimming our light so others can shine. Just sister-to-sister conversations about the stuff that matters to us. Our healing, our growth, our dreams, and our right to live unbothered by anyone else's expectations. Now, whether you're unlearning old patterns, setting boundaries that make people uncomfortable, or just trying to figure out who you are when you're not busy being everything to everyone, guess what? You belong here. So, grab your coffee, your tea, your journal, or just your beautiful self, and let's dive in. Because my story matters, your story matters, our voices matter, and we deserve more. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey, what's up, y'all? How are you? Welcome back. We are getting ready to peel back the layers of the Unmasked series topic this week, self-stewardship. Of course, it can be seen as selfishness because we are expected to be selfless in order to be righteous, to be holy, to be good girls, to be cooperative, to be quote-unquote team players. But we're not going to touch on the workplace today. We're going to do that next week. This week, we're going to keep it domestic, girl. So let's go ahead and have a conversation that goes deeper than the surface level. Let's keep it real so that we definitely do not feel like we have to apologize for taking up space, okay? So today we're talking about something that many of us struggle with, but rarely name out loud. Self-stewardship, and why it feels so wrong when we try to practice it. But before we dive in, I want you to grab your notes, your journal, your notebook, your phone, or even just a mental note. Just take a moment, breathe, and allow yourself to receive, because this conversation is going to require some honest reflection. Now, I want you to think about the last time you chose you. Not your kids, not your partner, not your community, not your clients, not your mama, your sister, your best friend. Just you. When was the last time you made a decision that was purely in service of your own well-being? I'm curious, what came up? Guilt? Resistance? The need to explain yourself? Maybe you're even having trouble remembering the last time. Sis, you are not alone. And more importantly, you're not broken and you are not unique. This is something that is common amongst all of us, not just Black women, probably more so women of minority communities. But I'm pretty sure our white sisters also can speak to this space, just as womanhood as a whole, that we tend to be expected to be of service to everyone, not ourselves. Now, we've been conditioned, absolutely, especially as women of color, especially as women who've been told we're strong and can handle everything, anything, to believe that care is something we give away, that our value is measured in sacrifice, that saying no or even pausing to consider what we actually want will be viewed as selfish. Now, don't get me wrong. We can be selfish and prideful and arrogant. I, for one, can attest to that. And I am not ashamed to say it because I have repented before God and I ask Him on a daily basis to help me not to show up in the world that way. Because for some reason, it is a part of my response to the world to do that. But that comes from my favorite term, self-awareness. But what if I told you that self-stewardship is actually the foundation of true transformation and wholeness, and that practicing it is not betrayal, it's responsibility, sacred responsibility. The Bible speaks often about the condition of our souls, whether they're speaking from the perspective of our heart, our mind, our inner being. That is our soul. That is the very essence of who we are. We are a soul with a body. Okay? So, if that be the case, then all of the external things that we pour our everything into are not the beginning of the end. See, here's what they don't tell you about self-stewardship or self-care, as some of us say. It's not about bubble baths and face masks. Though if that's your thing, do your thing. It's about recognizing that you are the steward of your own life. You can only truly control you. You are responsible for the care and keeping of your energy, time, emotional capacity, dreams, and boundaries. You are responsible for the quality of your spiritual relationship with our Lord. You are responsible to read His word and apply it to your life. You are responsible for applying not just the word of God, but worldly knowledge and wisdom that benefits you in that season to your life so that your life can be lived in a way that God intended, not the rulers of this world. And a lot of us are living in the way that the rulers of this world desire for us to live for this very reason, a lack of stewardship. And sis, if you're not stewarding yourself well, everything else suffers. Your relationships suffer because you're operating from depletion. Your work suffers because you're running on fumes. Your dreams suffer because you're convinced that they don't matter as much as everyone else's needs, or you are just too doggone exhausted to pursue them. So let's talk about what this really looks like practically, not just in theory, because we're about action over here, sis. So let's talk about red flags of self-neglect. I definitely have a chapter on this in my book, Reciprocity Eludes Me, because this is something that I truly had to come to terms with. And it took me years to drop those habits and develop habits of self-care and self-stewardship. And I'm not perfect. I still bob and weave in and out, ebb and flow in and out of being effective or not. That's life. We continue to learn, we continue to grow, but we keep moving. But before we talk about where we're going, we need to acknowledge where we are. So let's get real about the signs that you might, just might, sis, be neglecting yourself in the name of being good or selfless. Red flag number 1. You feel resentment after helping others, but you keep doing it. I know I've been there. Girl, this one hits different, doesn't it? You say yes to volunteering for that project, watching your friends' kids, covering that extra shift, planning that event, or even just attending that event. And afterward, you feel angry, but not at them, at yourself. But do you learn from it? No. you open yourself up to do it again next week. That resentment, that's your inner woman trying to tell you something. It's saying, girl, this isn't sustainable. This isn't honoring who you are, and it does not serve you to move like this in this world. Red flag number 2. You say yes instantly, even when your body says no. Your shoulders tense up, your stomach drops. Every cell in your body is screaming, no! But your mouth says, of course, I'd love to help. We've been trained to override our own internal GPS system. But your body is wise, sis. It knows before your mind catches up, and most likely, if you are a spirit-filled believer, the Holy Spirit is already prompting you with discernment. The question is, do you yield? A lot of times we don't. Red flag number 3. You only rest when you've completely burned out. I'm just going to say ouch on this one. Ouch and ouch. You push and push until your body literally forces you to stop. You get sick, you have a breakdown, you can't get out of bed, and then you rest. But only because you have no choice. Rest is a reward for exhaustion. Is not rest. It's recovery. And there is a significant difference. Red flag number 4. You explain and justify every boundary that you set. I can't do this because, and then you give a dissertation on why you can't, as if your no isn't complete without a whole thesis statement or defense. Sis, you know I'm right. Once we accept the fact that when we place boundaries, those boundaries are for our own protection and provision, and not for the manipulation and controlling of others, it will become much easier to feel comfortable in setting and establishing and maintaining boundaries. But if you don't, you will constantly be a revolving door, a doormat, whatever other symbolism that you can think of what it feels like to always be trying to explain yourself for doing what is best for you. Oh, but here's a big one. You feel guilty for having needs. You apologize for being hungry. You apologize for being tired. You apologize for having preferences. You treat your own humanity like it's an inconvenience for everyone else. I know very well what this looks like in everyday life, and I still try to catch myself. I still apologize for things that I have absolutely zero reason to be apologizing for. That's 100. And I am encouraging myself as well as you to recognize this. Name it for what it is. Feeling guilty for imposing my needs on others. Does this sound familiar for you? If you're nodding along, I want you to know that this is not judgment. It's a moment of awareness. And awareness gives you power. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. So now that we've named it, let's talk about what we're going to do about it. Shall we? Small but radical shifts. All right, let's walk through 3 self-stewardship shifts that are simple but radical. Why is it radical? Because choosing yourself in a world that profits from your self-neglect is revolutionary. It's the very same concept of rest being resistance. Okay? So we want to be radical. We want to be a part of the resistance. We want to be revolutionary. For this is the only way that we will begin to see change against misogyny, change against racism and sexism, change against classism. Instead of being victims, we can choose to be victors one step at a time, starting from our own personal transformations and showing up differently in this world. Because when we show up different, everyone else around us will notice. And we will require others either to match our energy or keep it a moving. And that sounds like peace to me, sis. All right. Shift number 1. Say, let me get back to you, instead of yes. This is so simple, it's almost embarrassing. When someone asks you to do something, instead of automatically saying yes, you can say, let me check my calendar and get back to you. I won't lie. I have felt guilty saying this to people, even something as simple as a phone conversation. But I know myself now, and I understand why I have to say, let me check my calendar and get back to you. Because I may not be ready in that moment. I only have enough energy in my preserve, only enough ability in my preserve, and only enough bandwidth to handle what's in front of me in that moment. And to add anything else will throw me into a space that will be difficult to come out of. So giving yourself that cushion, 1, to not think and move out of immediate response, but to be able to give yourself a moment to say, okay, when do I have the time and energy for this? Do I have the bandwidth for this? And then your yes will be a yes, or your no will be a no. Period. This gives your nervous system space. It signals to yourself that your voice matters. It reminds that you have agency over your own life. A lot of times we're so miserable because we feel like everyone else has agency over our lives more than we do. And we give them that leeway, that power. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to explain why you need time. You don't have to justify it. Let me get back to you is a complete sentence with a period, just like no, period. Whichever way you feel led in that moment, my sister, I encourage you to stand 10 toes down on protecting your energy, your peace, your space, and your time, because all of that is limited. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, but Nikki, what if they think I'm being difficult? Sister, let me tell you something. People who respect you will respect your need to think things through. People who get upset that you won't immediately sacrifice your time and energy, that tells you everything you need to know about their intentions and their motives. It's not about us all the time. Most of the time, it's about the other person, the way that they respond. Because again, we cannot control what other people think or feel. We can only control our response and our reactions. Same with them. So if they do not have a handle on their response, that's something that they need to work on between them, their inner woman, their inner man, and their Lord. It is above you, sis. If they think you're difficult, that's not your problem. All right, shift number 2. Protect 1 hour per week as time sacred for you and you only. Just 1 hour. That's it. Block off 60 minutes that belong completely to you. Not for planning, not for cleaning, not for catching up on emails. Just being, reading, walking, napping, journaling, staring at the ceiling, if that's what you need. I remember one lady telling me that she just goes and sits in the middle of her bed with a blanket over her just to shut out the world and just give herself a moment. That's what I'm talking about right there. Figure out what works for you. For me, I do this first thing in the morning. Sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. But if you need to start smaller and build up to that, that's up to you. I'm in a space in my life now, a season in my life where I can do that. But I was reminded when my grandson was here with me that there was a day when I didn't have that ability, that time, that energy, because I was raising 4 daughters. Okay? So give yourself grace. Recognize the season that you are in and find a way to make it work for yourself. Now, I can probably hear you saying something like, Coach, I don't have an hour. I barely have 5 minutes. Sis, I hear you. But here's the truth. If you don't have time for yourself, you don't really have a life, do you? You have a to-do list that happens to include you breathing. Oop. Listen, just start small if you need to. Maybe it's 15 minutes on Sunday morning before anyone else wakes up. Maybe it's 30 minutes on your lunch break where you actually eat lunch instead of working through it. Maybe it's an hour on Saturday afternoon where you tell everyone you're unavailable. And when people ask what you're doing during that time, you say, I'm taking care of myself. Not I'm being selfish, not I'm sorry, but just simply, I'm taking care of myself because that's what you are doing. Shift number 3. Ask, is this mine to carry? Before you say yes to helping or fixing or saving, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this mine to carry? Not everything presented to you belongs to you. I'm going to say that again. Not everything presented to you belongs to you. Not every problem is yours to solve. Not every emergency is yours to handle. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. And I say that with 4 adult daughters and a grandson. That hit. Because at one point, when is it no longer your responsibility? Or when it is your responsibility, what is too much and what is enough? Because people would like for you to believe, especially if you've been giving your whole life, overgiving, that you're not doing enough in that moment. Your grown sister calls you crying about the same relationship drama for the 100th time. Is this yours to carry? I hate to admit that I was that sister at one point for a large part of my adult life. Your coworker is stressed about a project that has nothing to do with you. Is this yours to carry? Your neighbor needs help moving, and you're already exhausted and overwhelmed. Is this yours to carry? Discernment is not selfishness, it's wisdom. It's recognizing that you have limited resources and you need to steward them well. And here's what's beautiful about this question. It doesn't automatically mean no. Sometimes the answer is yes. This is mine to carry because I love this person and I have the capacity. But now you're choosing from a place of clarity, not obligation. And if I may, for a moment, have an unmask, I am still struggling with this financially. My family and I have this habit of basically depending on each other. one's out of money, we ask and we borrow, and one loans and the other borrows, and so forth. I'm sure we're not the only ones that do that. But at some point, one has to come to the realization that it's not always the other person's problem. Hurts a little bit, doesn't it, to think of it that way? But it is what it is, okay? And so I'm learning that I need to ask the Holy Spirit to help me to discern. When do I need to ask for help, and when do I need to trust more? Or when do I need to help instead of standing firm behind boundaries? And here's what's beautiful about this question. It doesn't automatically mean no. And so I want you to remember that you're choosing to give yourself cushion and time to think about it with intention, thought, and time for prayer and spiritual guidance before responding. Now, what happens when guilt shows up? Let's talk about what happens when you start implementing these shifts, because I need to prepare you for something. The guilt is coming. You're going to say, let me get back to you. And you may feel guilty at first, but you are going to protect your hour and feel guilty. You are going to ask, is this mine to carry, and feel guilty. Sis, I need you to hear this. Guilt doesn't mean you're wrong. It often means you're growing. Guilt is what surfaces when we disrupt patterns that kept us safe, but small. When we were little, being agreeable, being helpful, being selfless kept us loved. It kept us safe. It kept us accepted even. But what kept you safe at 7 might be suffocating you at 37. So when that guilt shows up, don't run from it. Don't ignore it. And don't let it convince you to go back to old patterns. Instead, get curious about it. What exactly is this feeling of guilt trying to tell me in this moment? Am I trying to protect an old story? Or am I feeling this because I am actually stretching my comfort zone, which equals growth? Maybe it's the story that says your worth is tied to your usefulness. Maybe it's the story that says love is conditional on your sacrifice. Maybe it's the story that says you don't deserve to have needs. Those stories served you once, but they don't serve you now. And part of unmasking is letting go of the stories that no longer fit who you are becoming. So let that guilt be your signal that liberation is in motion. Let it be your reminder that you're breaking generational patterns. Let it be your confirmation that you're choosing yourself, maybe for the first time in your life. And if you need permission to feel guilty and do it anyway, here it is. Coach Nikki gives you permission to feel guilty and still choose yourself. You have my permission to feel uncomfortable and still set boundaries. You have my permission to feel selfish and still practice self-stewardship. Because here is the ultimate truth, my sister. Self-stewardship isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming whole, healthy, healed. It's about recognizing that you are not a well that everyone else gets to draw from until you run dry. You are a human being with needs, desires, limits, and dreams, and callings and purposes that matter. So, why does this matter, sis? I want to go a little deeper with you before we wrap up. Because this work of self-stewardship, It's not just about you. It's about the ripple effect you create when you start honoring yourself. When you practice self-stewardship, you give other women permission to do the same. My 4 daughters are watching. Your daughters may be watching you set boundaries and learning that your voice matters. Your friends, your girlfriends, they see you choosing yourself and start questioning their own patterns of self-neglect. You show up to work, your relationships, your community, your church, from a place of fullness instead of depletion. And then what? Then you become better. A better leader, a better partner, a better friend, a better parent. Not because you're sacrificing more, but because you're giving from overflow instead of emptiness. That's so good. That's good. And on a deeper level, you're disrupting systems that depend on your self-neglect. That's how this empire has been built, y'all. That's how it's been built. I won't get into that right now. We'll get into that with the Sacred Resistance episode. But for now, I'm just going to throw that out there. We are disrupting the systems that depend on our self-neglect. You are refusing to participate in the narrative that women, especially women of color, are supposed to be everyone's emotional supply closet. Yeah, I said it. That's revolutionary work, sis. That's sacred work. And it starts with you asking yourself, what would it look like if I stewarded my own life as carefully as I attempt to steward everyone else's? I encourage you to journal that question because that's a good one. All right. Well, your call to action this week is simple yet powerful. I want you to open your journal or your phone's notes app or just grab a piece of paper and ask yourself this question. What's one area of my life that's been asking for my attention, but I've ignored it in the name of being selfless? For me, in this season, that is my physical health and my financial health. In the previous season, it was my mental and emotional and spiritual growth and health. So again, this goes back to self-awareness and God consciousness. Maybe it's your health, maybe it's your creative dreams, maybe it's your need for rest. Because I understand, I need a vacation so bad right now. Maybe it's a relationship that's been draining you. Maybe it's a commitment you said yes to but wish you had not. Write it down, acknowledge it, and then ask yourself, what's one small step I can take this week to honor this area of my life? You don't have to completely overhaul your life overnight, but you can start. You can take one small step towards stewarding yourself better. Sis, a baby step is still a step. And remember, you deserve your own care. You deserve your own attention. You deserve to be the recipient of your own kindness, not just the source of everyone else's. And I will throw this in there because this is something I have been working on also. Stop looking for someone else to give you what you deserve. Okay? Stop looking for someone else to be the source. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. It's recognizing that you are worthy of the same love and care you so freely give to others. Yes, the Bible tells us to love the Lord our God with all of our being and to love others as we love ourselves. But if we don't even know how to love ourselves, how do we know how to fully, truly love others? Because loving others can drain us, absolutely, completely deplete us if we don't love ourselves. Okay? Now, that is all for this week's episode. It's actually shorter than I thought it was going to be. If you want to join this conversation, please join the Sisters Unbothered community on Substack. There you will have access to information and content that I send out specifically for this series, such as the training videos, the worksheets and handouts, affirmations, also live sessions and coaching sessions, which we do have a coaching session on Saturday mornings at 11:30 Eastern Time. In the Substack group, you will be kept up to date if I will or will not be hosting live sessions or coaching groups during that week. Okay? So please go click the link in the description and check out the Sisters Unbothered Substack. Keep in mind, it is currently a free subscription. You do not have to pay for the subscription at this time. Later on down the line, after I finish this first round of the Unmasked series, I may add a paid tier where you will get access to more specific and relevant and information. Okay, I drew a blank there, y'all. But for now, for the rest of this year, this cohort of the Unmasked series is free, including the coaching sessions and all content that is provided to you. So click the link, give us your email, download Substack, download the playbook, the Unmasked playbook, and jump right in and let me know what you think, because I am building this in real time right now, and I want to know if it helps. Now, next week, we are going to start talking about unmasking at work. I'm going to do a week of unmasking at work because I am currently building a curriculum for organizations specifically for unmasking at work. So that's going to be next week's topic and podcast, okay? And I think that that is something that we all need because we spend more time of our waking hours, more days of the week, in a professional environment, in a workplace, in a marketplace. So I think that this is something that is super important for us to consider. Now, I ask that you will tag a sister who needs to hear this. Leave a review if this podcast serves you well. And remember, the work of unmasking is not a destination, it's a journey. Just like life, just like transformation, just like peace. You are not too much. You are not too little. You are not too anything. You're exactly who you're supposed to be. And if there are some changes and transformations that need to be made, at your fundamental core, it does not change who God says that you are. And you are worthy, my sister. All right, I'll see you next week. And until then, keep unmasking, my sister. Keep choosing yourself. Keep remembering that your life is sacred, it is intentional, and you are worthy of stewarding it well. I love you, my sisters. Till next week. You have been listening to Sisters Unbothered, a sacred sanctuary for Black women and women of color who are reclaiming their peace, power, and presence in a world that demands merely our performance. This season, we're journeying through the Unmasked series, a multi-layered experience of personal development training, emotional healing, and group coaching for women ready to take off the masks, step into congruency, and live as their whole, healed, authentic selves. If you are, in fact, ready to go deeper, if you are ready to unlearn and relearn, deconstruct and rebuild within yourself and your life, join us for the live transformation circle sessions on Thursday evenings, transformation coaching calls, which is basically group coaching on Saturday mornings. And if you're ready for personal, tailored strategy and growth, I am currently accepting new one-on-one coaching clients. Click the link in the description and send me a message and schedule a discovery call. You weren't born to live silenced. You weren't created to shrink. You are worthy of rest, reciprocity, and radical love. Sis, this is your season to unmask, unlearn, and unbecome what never belonged to you. Until next time, Be encouraged. Be empowered. Be fulfilled. Be unbothered.